Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Game night's fun until someone spends 5 minutes lining up one shot. Chalk, breathe, re-chalk, still aiming. While they figure it out, I fire up Chumba Casino. I can spin anywhere, anytime, and there's always a new social casino game every week. Spins happen way faster than that shot. Play now at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Cole Swindell, and when I spend 200 days a year rolling down the highway, the bus can start to feel smaller than a guitar case. Everyone wonders how I stay chill while the hours crawl by. Truth is, one good luck spin on Chumba, and suddenly the trip feels a whole lot shorter. Finding your space, even when there isn't much to spare. Need some chill? Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus TNCs apply. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
There are heroes and there are legends. Heroes come and go. Legends never die. We usually say that you cannot become a legend before death. These are living legends. If the legends fall silent, who will teach the children of our ways? Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 5, brought to you by Titan Sensor, is proud to present The Legends. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches Podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 5, the Legends Series. And today I've got a younger legend. We got to have those, and we do have one. He's the son of a legend, and he's won 3 state championships in his own right. Coach Chip Walker, head coach at Newnan High School. Thanks for being with me.
I appreciate you having me. It's an honor for me to be here, and I don't know. I know a bunch of legends. I don't know if I need to be included in any of that talk for sure.
Well, Coach, when we were coming up with the list, we started looking at younger guys that have a chance to get in the 200-win mark, and all things being equal here in the next year or two, I think you're definitely going to crack it, and I know you want to pass your pops, and that would be Look, awesome.
we do. I'll be honest with you. We do have a little family running joke, not necessarily between me and my dad, but like when my sister and somebody will say something about, he's got way more wins than you got. And I said, he's probably going to retire. I mean, I'm going to be retired and not have as many wins as him, but I do got more state championships, so I can at least can hold something over his head.
So as a coach's kid, you grew up probably moving around a lot or whatever, but where did you end up going to high school?
As you said, we and my dad was, if nobody knows much about my dad was notorious for moving. So we did grow up a lot of places, but I would probably, if I had to call home, it would be Stevens County, which is where I went to high school, up in Toccoa, Georgia, in Northeast Georgia. He stayed there long enough for me to go all 4 years of my high school career there. And so I consider Stevens to be my home.
Okay. And did you just play? I'm sure you played everything, not just football.
Well, back in the day, that's kind of one of the things that we talk about here at Newnan in our program. And one of the things that I'm proud of with our kids is we have a bunch of dual sport athletes. When I was growing up, I played a little bit of everything. I lettered in football, basketball, track, and golf. And so, kind of our saying is, kids got 4 years to go to high school, and they need to enjoy those 4 years and be able to play as much and have as many memories as they can. And I think I got to do that when I was in high school, and something that we want for our guys to be able to do if possible.
Oh, absolutely. I can't stand the fact that some of these kids specialize because they're just missing out on the bus rides and the eating at McDonald's with their teammates and making memories and and God knows you might have the best shortstop in America is sitting out there playing slot receiver,
But you're right about one thing. Like, we still tell stories of, basketball trips and sitting in the back of the bus and cutting up and doing whatever. Those are some of the best stories and best times that me and my high school buddies had, and we still tell those stories, and that's why that is true. And then, when we moved to Tacoma when I was going into high school, there's Ken Swilling was a couple years older than me, and he thought he was a basketball star, and he ended up being an All-American football player at Georgia Tech, playing in the NFL. So you never really know what you're going to be the best at. Don't limit yourself.
I agree 1,000%. So did you know all along that you were going to be a coach, or did you go to college to do something else, or did you go to college to play ball, or what did college look like for you?
There's probably a funny story a little bit. I went to college and played. I signed with Mars Hill up in North Carolina out of high school, was there for a year, and transferred to Tusculum College, which is now Tusculum University up in Greenville, Tennessee, where I played all 4 years, started quarterback all 4 years at Tusculum. But during my time there, and I tell folks, I tell this story a lot, that when I first got there, I was not going to be a coach. I didn't want to do, all the things I guess I grew up doing. And, again, we moved. My dad was a head coach at about 9 or 10 places in the state of Georgia. So we moved a lot. That was not something that I really wanted to do. And then there was a time period in school when I decided I kind of might want to do that. And then I backed out of it again. So I changed my mind several times. I ended up graduating at Tusculum with a business degree, and graduated in December. My dad was down at Peach County at the time, so I kind of moved back home and got a job in Macon. And I should back up just a little bit. I guess my season got done. He was in the playoffs at Peach, and so I got to go to the last couple games, and one of those games was when you remember when Josie was really good over there, and Coach Starr had that really good run, and Peach and Josie had some really good battles. I got to go and sit up in the press box. Rance Gillespie was the offensive coordinator, and I was kind of an extra set of eyes for him, and got to have a little bit of a taste of it, even though I had already graduated and that wasn't going to be what I was going to do. I started my job there in Macon. I worked there for just a short amount of time, and I was like, I just don't see myself going and sitting in a building in a factory or wherever for the next 30 or 40 years and that being my life. So in the meantime, my college head coach, Tom Bryant, had taken the defensive coordinator's job at Wofford over in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I called up Coach Bryant and I said, Coach, I want to get into coaching. And he says, he goes and talks to Mike Ayers, who, if you're talking about legends, there's a legend of college football in my mind that was the head coach at the time. And Coach Bryant and Coach Ayers actually played college football together. So he goes and talks to Coach Ayers, and they say, come on. They needed a wide receivers coach at the time. So I'm my first year out. I'm coaching wide receivers. I guess my job is technically at that point in time, I was a restricted earnings coach. I was getting my master's. They gave me a place to live. And I tell everybody my earnings were real restrictive. They were nothing. They gave me some meals and a place to live, and that was it. And that's kind of how I got my start in coaching. And I owe all that. I owe a bunch of that to Coach Bryant and to Coach Ayers, and obviously they took care of me and kind of got me started.
So, do you think you were going to be the next hotshot offensive coordinator in college, or did you kind of just feel it out and go, maybe I need to go to high school route? Or because when you're that age, you don't know what you're going to do. You just
and that is exactly right. You really don't know what you're going to do, and You know, probably was college appealing? Yeah, it could have been appealing. But one of the things that I did learn during my time there is those guys are on the road all the time. And I got married while I was there, and started a family, and I knew stability came with high school football. And so I got my master's in basically a summer, a year, and another summer. And I got a call from a true legend at that point in time, with when Dan Pitts called me and he had an opening. And I knew at that point in time what I wanted to do, and I wanted to go be a high school football coach. And I don't know if there's any place that I could have started better than with who I consider to be the greatest of all time to do it in the state of Georgia, Dan Pitts.
Coach Pitts, what didn't y'all coaches would go shake hands, the kids lined up and went and marched and went and got in the field house? That was a thing,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
that was a legit thing now. So a lot of folks,
like younger coaches don't know this, and I tried to tell people that, and they're like, I was like, no, I think there was a bad fight one time, and he said, well, I can fix that.
Then that is exactly what happened. And I've asked him, when I coached for him, what was the reasoning behind that? He said there was a real bad fight in the handshake line one time. And Coach when Coach decided something, he had decided it, and that's what he decided would eliminate that. He wouldn't have to deal with that anymore. And he told the coaches, people that played him every year knew it, but the coaches that might be new or something, or in playoffs, he would tell them like, hey, we're not going to shake hands. Coaches will come shake hands, and my guys are going to the locker room. And that's the way it worked. And that was just his way of dealing with an issue.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw it on film, it was awesome because it was like, hup, 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 there they go. And here come the coaches across the field. I was like, that is amazing.
And Coach had a couple things. That was one, obviously. The other one that was big is, there was never a radio broadcast of a Mary Persons football game from I guess Dan Pitt Stadium now, but there was never a broadcast because he thought that would hurt the attendance, and so he had never allowed the radio broadcast, which is another one of those things that people might think, what? That actually happened.
Really?
That happened for a long time.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's a good way to market your program.
Well, and it was, again, like you said, smart. I wanted as many people in the stands as I can get in the stands, and you get a home field advantage and all the different things that go on. So it was smart. It was just not something that everybody did at the time.
So what were some of your duties and responsibilities as a first-year coach at Mary Persons?
Well, this is probably going to be one that young coaches will think this might be the craziest thing that I've ever heard. But so my first year coaching was at Wofford. I coached the wideouts, and I was the wideout coach. I was the only person that did it. Obviously Wade Lang, who was the offensive coordinator, I was right under him, but I had him as my group. When I got to Mary Persons, the opening that Coach Pitts had was basically as the middle school coach. And the way Coach Pitts did it is you went in and you coached the middle school guys, and then he moved you up to the varsity. So basically, Coach had the varsity and I guess we would have called it the B team at the time, actually practiced together. And then the C team was the middle school team. And so my first job was I was a C team coach. And on Friday nights, I went and scouted. And that was my first year in high school was what I did. And
you mean people didn't get to see you stand on the sideline with a headset on?
Exactly right. And a lot of these young guys nowadays think that, well, it's about my title or it's about my position. And really and truly, one of the things, if a young guy is listening and takes anything out of this, it's about learning to coach. It's about learning the game and learning to coach the game. And you can do those things not by coaching a varsity position every Friday night and all the stuff that goes on. me getting to do everything that Coach Pitts did, but going and coaching the C team, that prepared me for later on. So now I will say that his expectation of me was that I would be at every varsity meeting and I would be
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. The rush of racing? Nothing beats it. But Chumba Casino comes close. Chumba's got fast spins, fun games, daily bonuses, and all the action you can handle. Now that's a ride. Ready to hit the throttle? Get in the driver's seat and head to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Be there on Sundays, and I would do all those things, which was my expectation of myself as well. That's what I wanted to do. But that was kind of what I did my first year.
And how long were you at Mary Persons?
I was at Mary Persons for 3 years. So I was at Mary Persons, Coach Pitts's last 2 years, and then Steve Chafin's first year as the head coach. So my 3 years there, I coached the C team my first year. Coach Pitts had an opening on the varsity, and it was linebackers. And I have never played defense and never coached defense except for that 1 year. But that's what Coach wanted me to do, and it was probably one of the best learning experiences of my life. It took me out of my comfort zone. I had to learn defense. I had to learn how to teach those defensive guys what to do, and I had to really learn and study. And so I coached my linebackers the second year, and then Coach Pitts retired, and I took over the quarterbacks the next year. So, being the guy who Coach Pitts had been the only guy to coach the quarterbacks for the previous 39 years or whatever it might have been, then me coaching the quarterbacks after him was a great honor, but also there's a lot of pressure on that too.
I can imagine. So where'd you go to after Mary Persons?
Well, after Mary Persons is when my dad left Peach. I guess our last year at Mary Persons, Coach Chafin's first year, we both played in the semifinals back in the Dome back in the day, and we made it. We played on Friday night. My dad was at Peach. We got beat by Early County. My dad played on Saturday night at Peach, and they beat Riverdale. They played the state championship next week down at Peach, and got beat by Daugherty, that really good team that Daugherty had. And then he took the Sandy Creek job. By this time, I had two sons that had been born, and Dad took the job, and it's always been something we wanted to do was to coach together, and it worked out for me to be able to go with him and be the offensive coordinator for him at Sandy Creek.
And you were at Sandy Creek for a hot minute.
We were there for he was there as the head coach for 6, and then I was the head coach for 12 after that. So we were there for 18 total years, and it was a great place and a great run with great people, and it was an experience that you look back on, and it's not everybody gets to go through what we got to go through at Sandy Creek, and it was one that I cherished for a long time. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and that's where we met. I was Ike's DC at Lithia Springs, and we were all in the same region. And when people hear that, they're like, "Oh, you're at Lithia Springs," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, in 04 and 05. I was like, "Well, we were in the region with Villa Rica, Northgate, Sandy Creek, McIntosh, Woodward Academy, Creekside." And they're like, "Good Lord." I'm like, "Yeah, there were some dudes in that region." And every team had a dude, or at least it had at least a dude, except us. Everybody else had dudes.
Was Lonnie Lee
Yeah,
there?
we had Lonnie Lee. Yeah, we had Lonnie Lee. He was a dude.
He was an incredible running back now. I mean, he was good.
Yeah, he was. We had a couple of good kids. We had some players, but we didn't have like what everybody we had 3 or 4 kids that could play. We didn't have like 12.
There was some really good football though
in that region.
Played.
Yeah.
Now that's one of the other things that people people don't understand. I know we're always into a debate about classifications and regions and all these other things. There used to be some regions of 8, 9, 10, 11 teams that had teams that you would say now 6, 7, 8 of those were like playoff teams. And there used to be some wars and some battles during the regular season to even get to the postseason.
Absolutely. I remember we played McIntosh the week before we played y'all. I think it was your first year. I don't know. I can't remember.
It's not when I
got ejected.
Got ejected, was
Yeah,
it?
and I was the acting head coach. And we were only down like 6-0 at halftime. And I had told them the David and Goliath story. But I'd saved the main David and Goliath part that most people knew. I told them I wasn't going to tell them the main part till the end, and it was till halftime. If we could just hang in there, and I think y'all ended up beating us 10-6. I don't know. It was the best game we ever played. But anyway,
it was a close game. Was it 14-6 or something?
Yeah, it was 14-6 or 20-6 or something. It was close. It was for us. It was close.
Yeah, I remember.
It was a good game for us.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, and Ike had gotten thrown out because the week before at McIntosh, they had called us for defensive holding on the defensive line, and they were running the wing tee, and they came around and and I don't know what happened. Our defensive lineman cut the lead blocker or whatever, and they called us for holding or something, and he went banana nuts. And I didn't even know we didn't even know that was a rule. We were like, you kidding me? It was back when they had the old, remember that year the point of emphasis was anything in the box was basically a war zone. As long as you pull a knife on anybody, you could pretty much do what you wanted to.
Uh-huh.
And we could not get him calmed down, and it was bad. But Alexander was in the region. Finley was at Alexander.
Yeah.
You had Chapel Hill. Man, there were some dudes in that region.
There really was. I remember that night. Because I always wondered where was Ike at?
Yeah. So it was me and Wags. Me and Mike Wagner were having to hold down the fort. And I was like, no, I don't want to let him down. I don't want to let Ike down so bad. I didn't want to let him down. And ended up, as I had many times, let him down. And then you had Whitley was at Creekside. I mean, there was some
with Eric Berry over there.
Oh God, he was so good.
Yes, he was. I told a story to somebody the other day that had to be that same year. He had gotten hurt, like a bruised or broken rib or something, versus Woodward Academy, and we played them like a week later. And we had one kid, Brent Brewer, who signed with Florida State out of high school, got picked like 60th overall in the Major League Baseball draft. And Brent was, I'm not going to say he's like on Eric, but like he was as close as we had to Eric Berry, and could run with him and do some things. And every time that Brent got anywhere close to making a tackle on Eric, he hit the ground before we could actually get any shots on him, and that was going to be like our only chance to pound on him a little bit. And I think they ended up beating us like 14-6 or 14-7 that night. And I guess they ended up winning the region that year, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, what's so impressive about that young man to me was after the game, he'd have his helmet under his arm, he'd look you in the eye, shake your hand, and basically thank you for him beating the crap out of you all night. He's very, very extremely well spoken, and
that's exactly right.
And he's like, "Well, Coach, I enjoyed beating the crap out of you tonight." You're just sitting there going, "Yeah, well, it wasn't really fun to watch. I mean, it was fun to watch you, but it wasn't. He was good, but they were just such good teams in that region. So y'all break through, win the state championship. Your first state championship as a head coach. What was that like?
Well, that was something.
Well, let me back up. I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you. You finally get to be the head coach.
Okay.
And we always talk about you're never ready. Well, you're about as ready as anybody can get. You're a coach's kid. You've watched your dad do it. Were you ready?
I'm gonna tell you, because I had this conversation today, actually. It's funny that we're talking about this. David Cooper, who just took over at Stars Mill, coached for me at Sandy Creek for about 10 years. and we were talking about that whole thing. And I made the statement that you just made. Basically, I'm the son of a coach who was a head coach in the state of Georgia for 39 years and not even close to ready. That's all I had really kind of known, and was no way close to ready to being a head coach. And as I told him, and he said, I wasn't ready, had no clue. You're never going to actually be 100% ready for that thing. You got to have good people around you, which is the most important thing. And then you got to have somebody that you can lean on, somebody that you can pick up the phone and call. To me, those are the things that are the most important for young guys. Is it is not about the head coach. It is about the people around the head coach. And what was so great about Sandy Creek is basically we got to keep the entire staff together. My dad, kind of retired and went back to Forsyth. And the defensive coordinator, Eddie Householder, the secondary guy, Brett Garvin, who took over after me, Jamie Glover, who was our offensive line coach and strength and conditioning coach, who is now the AD here at Newnan. We got to keep all those guys. David Cooper, who I just named as the head coach at Stars Mill, was actually the guy that I hired to take Daddy's job. And he was just a young guy that we kind of taught the ropes to. There wasn't many people that got hired, so it was a great situation for me in terms of being able to take over that. And then, kind of learn to grow and develop as a head coach with so many people around me that were such good football coaches.
Yeah, I've gotten to talk to young coaches about it, and I'm like, baby, it's not the X's and O's and practice, that scheduling, all that. That's not the thing. I mean, that's a trained monkey can do that. That ain't hard. It's all the other stuff that you're not prepared for. There's not a manual for that.
and I will say this, and over time, this past year was my 20th year. How it's changed over time, in that back then everybody didn't have a cell phone. Everybody didn't have all these other things. Our job now as a head coach is it never stops 24/7. There's a little bit of a break around Christmas. There's a little bit of a dead week in July, and really, there's really about it. But that one in July, they may call it a dead week, but it is not. You're gearing up everything for the season. So it is almost a 365-day job that somebody, you're always a phone call away from who knows what in your program.
So how long did it take after being named the head coach before y'all won your first state championship as the head coach?
I want to say it was our 5th year, maybe.
It was the fifth. Wasn't it the 5th year?
I want to say about our 5th year.
Yeah.
And I can kind of, we won a playoff game. We won a road playoff game the third year at Hart County, which was the first road playoff victory in school history. The first 2 years we got knocked out in the first round, and I can remember them. We go down to Griffin, and they beat us. We chased Bobby Rainey all over the field one night, and I don't think I've told Bobby this because coach is down at Upson Lee. I think on one play I can remember us missing 17 tackles on him because he just went back and forth across the field all the way down. They beat us 30-0. And then the next year we went to Flowery Branch and got beat up there. And we made a decision on that night that we had to do one thing. We had to get faster on defense. And so we took a lot of folks and we started moving them down toward the ball. We moved, safeties and put them at defensive end. We moved corners and put them at linebacker and got faster. And that really was one of the things that turned our program around. But the third year we went to Hart County, won the first road playoff game in school history. The next year we were 10-0 and got beat by Rome in the second round.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
John Reed was the head coach up there. That's the year that they made it to the semis when they had that. They went to Marist and played and had that. I can remember there was a play late that got put on the news in Atlanta where some folks thought he scored, some folks didn't, and it ended up going Marist's way and not Rome's. But and then the next year we won a state championship. Would have been 2009.
So
was our first state championship.
And who did you guys beat for that?
We ended up playing Clark Central in the state championship game. But one of the things I do like to tell about that year is that was by far the toughest playoff bracket that I have ever been a part of. We played Loganville in the first round, which had a young man named Storm Johnson, who was a tailback that went to Miami. The second round, we played Tucker, who's the defending state champs. Franklin Stevens was the head coach. The third round, they had a young man named James Balders that went to Stanford. That was a heck of a player. The third round, we went down to Thomas County Central, and they had Ray Drew. There was a defensive lineman that went to University of Georgia. That was the first time that Sandy Creek had ever gone to the third round. We go down to Thomas County. It was a huge crowd, great atmosphere. And we ended up going down there and playing really good and won that game. And then the next game was the semifinals, which was at Griffin, which was one of the most electric atmospheres that I'd ever been in. Memorial Stadium was completely packed on both sides. We had Xavier Dickinson, who went to Alabama, was a heck of a football player. Devo and him tried an onside kick to start the game, and we had moved some DBs up, and one of our DBs ran and kind of scooped it and ran straight to the end zone for a touchdown on the opening kickoff of the game. We ended up winning the game, and then played Leroy Riles and Clark Central in the first state championship.
So after the first one, I know you think you're going to win another one, or are you like, well, we won one. Let's see if we can win another one.
Well, we had a bunch of good players back, but I will tell you, I can specifically remember we were the last game on Friday night at the Dome back. They had 2 days of games back then because there was only 4 classes at that point in time. So we were AAA, and the highest class was 4. Or am I saying that wrong? There might have been 5 classes, and we were 4A, and the highest class was 5, is what it was. And we played the last game on Friday night, and everybody walked to the bus, and I took a right, went up that tunnel just to look at this place one more time because, one thing I did know, I was the coach's son, and I knew my dad had only won 1. And, I didn't know if we'd ever be back. Obviously, we thought we had a chance to be pretty good in some years coming up. But you never know how that thing works. And the best team does not always win a state championship. There's a lot of things that go along with that. And I looked at that stadium one more time just to make sure. And lo and behold, the next year we were back in 2010 and won it again.
So going back to back, that puts you in rarefied air, with historically with other teams. Was it hard to get them motivated to do it, or was it easier for them since they'd already done it? There's some of the kids that already done it before. They knew what they were in for. How was that from a management standpoint?
I can tell you this: the 2009 team was we were a physically talented football team, and you don't win a state championship without being that. But we had great players at a lot of places. The 2010 team was by far the least talented team at Sandy Creek from about 2009 to about 2013. So it was the least physically talented, but it had the best chemistry of any team that I've ever been around. The kids just loved each other. They loved being around each other. They loved playing football. It was just they just had the chemistry that you don't find. If you could bottle that up and use it every year, man, how great would that be? But that group, we had a stud wide out, and we had a great quarterback, and we had some really, really good players on defense. But it was just the chemistry of that group was something special. And that's the one thing that I do remember about them. And they were fully bought in. We had the offensive line was completely back. So, that's important. It was back, save one guy. And we actually had an upgrade on talent because the kid that filled in for that one tackle that graduated was probably the best offensive lineman we ever had there, that ended up going to South Carolina 3 years later as a senior. But it was just the chemistry of that group was so good. So to answer your question, it wasn't as difficult in terms of getting them up. It was, the biggest thing was at that point in time, we were, we'd won 14 in a row the previous year, and we had won them all in 2010. So whatever we were, I guess we got to, by the end of that year, we were on a 29-game win streak. So you knew you were going to get everybody's best shot every single Friday night.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
Now you're the big bad in town because Newnan's right down the road. Griffin's right down the road. I mean, you're in that pocket where Carrollton's not far. Everybody in that area is traditionally powerhouses, and now you've joined the conversation. So, we
were the upstart at the time. It was.
Oh yeah, new kids on the block.
Well, and you know this from being around the state of Georgia. At that point in time in Georgia high school football history, Fayette County was an afterthought. Not many
baseball
folks.
County, baseball county.
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach Winslet may have had a good year or two at Fayette County. There may have been a few little pockets here and there where there was a good team, but nobody associated Fayette County football with the schools as powerhouses in the state of Georgia. And there we had won one in 2000 and 2009. Well, then in 2010, not only were we back again, but Stars Mill was undefeated and was going to play for a state championship. So it was kind of the emergence of Fayette County as, a county where you had to take high school football pretty serious.
And that's pretty awesome to be a part of that. And
it really was. It was pretty neat, and there's no doubt about that. You could see a transition in the county just from the excitement that was built every Friday night amongst all the schools.
And how many years was it? 2 years or 3 years before y'all won it again?
So we went 2011. We got beat in the quarterfinals, and then 12. We won it again.
That's right. 12.
So we won 3 out of 4. We had a 41-game win streak, and we go to Gainesville in the quarterfinals, and we run into a young man named Deshaun Watson, who was
he was all right.
He was a sophomore that year, and he was on fire the night that we played them, and they ended up breaking that win streak. They ended up getting beat by Burke County the next week, but his junior year they won is when Gainesville won that state championship. So it was if you talk about something over the course of a career, and maybe we can talk about it at some point in time, but you want to talk about seeing some really good quarterbacks. I've had the pleasure to see a bunch on the other sideline. There is no doubt about it. And the night that we played Deshaun, when they ended that 41-game win streak, I don't know that I'd ever seen one in all my time that was on like he was that night. He quick kicked us twice inside the 5-yard line. He he didn't miss, and it was a heck of a football game.
So y'all come back and win it in 12. Who'd y'all beat for it in 12?
Beat Ridgeland in 12, and Coach Markakis and those guys had a special group up there, and we ended up beating them. Most folks that year would probably tell you that how those brackets work. Sometimes people think the game with the two best teams might be played earlier. Most folks would probably tell you the quarterfinal game where we played Burke County at our place. They had Gator Green in that group. They were the defending state champions, and so that was a big game for us. It was the closest game we played that year. I think we ended up beating them by 14, but that was the closest game. That 12 team was probably the most dominant team that we had. I think we ended up winning the state championship, maybe 45-7 or something like that. It was a really dominant football team. And it was a special, each one of them is special. One, because you won a state championship, 2009, because that was the first one. 2010, as I told you, that was just a special group of young men that was so much fun to be around. 2012 was special. It was a dominant season. It was also, my son was on the team that year. So that was a special experience for me and him. He now coaches for me here at Newnan, but he actually threw a touchdown. He was the backup quarterback, actually threw a touchdown pass in the state championship. So that was something that we'll always remember, and something that we enjoyed a bunch. There's no doubt about that.
And how much longer did you stay at Sandy Creek before you moved on to Newnan? Was it 6 more years?
I think I was only there for about 4 more years.
4 more years? Okay.
So the next year was, if you talk about probably the most, I don't want to say disappointing, but probably the one where I felt like we underachieved the most. The 13 team had a ton of folks back. And that's when Devo and them won it. They beat us in the quarterfinals at our place. We were up 9. We were up 9 with about 7 minutes to go in the game, and they ended up beating us. They went on and beat Carrollton in the state championship. We felt like we were the best team that year and did not win it. And that's, that's part of it, And then my older son, Trey, was the quarterback my next year, which was, I'll tell you, it's a different experience coaching your own son. There's a lot of fun that goes along with it, but it ratchets up the stress. There's definitely no doubt about that. But so his senior year was the next year. We go up to Cartersville in the quarterfinals, and Cartersville was led by a young man named Trevor Lawrence, who was a freshman. They beat us. They scored with about 15 or 20 seconds to go to beat us his freshman year. And then the next 2 years, my youngest son, Bryant, was our quarterback. And then we made the transition down to Newnan going into his senior year.
So what made you decide to go explore Newnan? Did you just – because the reason if you don't want to talk about it, it's fine. But like Coach Heron said after being at Camden for so long, he's like, quite honestly, I got bored.
Yeah.
You've been somewhere for so long, you know how your day's going to go. You know
exactly how your day's. There's some truth to that. And some people have asked me this, before. It's like, why'd you leave Sandy Creek? You knew you were going to win,
Or you just wanted a new challenge.
Well, I'll tell you exactly the reason why that I pursued the Newnan job and came to Newnan is this is a great community. It is a community.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. You know what's slower than a pace car? Waiting at the car wash. That's when I fire up Chumba Casino. It turns those slow minutes into fast fun. With new games every week, you'll never get bored. Next time you're stuck in the slow lane, speed up with Chumba. Play now at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The one thing, Sandy Creek is in Tyrone. Most of our kids didn't live in Tyrone. They lived in northern Fayetteville. And Newnan is a community. It is a school that is embedded into the community. It's
an old-fashioned neighborhood school.
And I'm going to tell you, I really can't describe it. A lot of folks do not understand it because schools like this don't really exist anymore. But our school and our community are one. And not being, most of the time you might see those are city schools, but we're a county school, and it's just a unique situation. Obviously, at the time, it's a program that has a rich history. The challenge of getting that history back and being a part of that was something. And then it's just a great place to raise my daughter and for us to live. One of the things I would have to say is, my wife works at the Chick-fil-A corporate office, and that's right up at 285 and 85. So I probably wasn't getting much out of this area for her to be able to commute. And I think Newnan could be the premier job in this area, and I think it is. And so that was kind of what attracted me to it.
Awesome. I know we came up and gracious to host us for a walkthrough up there and saw the beautiful renovations and everything going on there with the athletic department, Coach Glover and the administration's doing there. And talk a little bit about that, how important administration is for a head coach.
Well, I can tell you this, young coaches that are listening, is the most important thing. You have to have an administration that first understands the importance of athletics to the high school atmosphere, how important that can be to all the kids, no matter what sport it is. Then the importance of football. The very first principal I worked for, Mr. Roy Raybold, who was the principal of Sandy Creek, and my dad, he was the principal when my dad was the head coach, is that he taught me early on, he's like, a lot of times the school year will go like the football season goes. If you have a great football season to start the year, there's excitement. There's the how proud people are of the school, and it carries over into the day. It carries over into other facets of the school day, and so that's important. And then to understand, the administration has to understand what is needed to be successful. And in today's time, obviously, you need to be able to get coaches in the building. You need to be able to run a weight room and do all the different things that need to be done. A lot of folks don't understand. It was a battle I fought all the way up until probably my last 3 or 4 years at Sandy Creek, where we didn't have all our guys in the same weight class during all that time. And as we kept winning and I kept asking for more things, eventually it got done to where we got them into 2 classes. They were on the 7-period day, and we got them into first and second period. Now, down here at Newnan, those are things that our administration, since I've been here, have been over backwards to make sure we have all the different things that we need, where we have all our guys in the same weight class. We have multiple coaches in that weight class with them, and we're able to run a program the way we feel like you need to run one to be successful.
Well, who are some of the coaches over the years that you've competed against as a head coach that you've enjoyed? Like you love coaching against them?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Obviously, one of the things that I guess it was an honor for me to compete against them, but probably one of our bigger rivals at Sandy Creek was Carrollton back when Coach Teague was there, and that was really, we had some really good games there. Obviously, I don't know, rivalry games are big. anytime you deal with those. One of the ones that was special is when I was at Sandy Creek, I got to coach against Clint Wade, and Coach Wade was only the head coach at East Coweta for a couple of years, but we have a family tie that goes a little bit deeper. He was at Mary Persons with Coach Pitts when I was a young kid, and he lived next door to my grandmother. And when I would go down during the summer, Coach Wade would take me fishing, and so for me to get a chance to coach against him was really good. Amos McCreary over at Whitewater, we always had huge rivals and great games. Those were always good. Frank Barden, who actually played for my dad and coached me in high school. I got to coach against Coach Barden twice. He beat me both times, but just to get a chance to coach against somebody like that you have so much respect for was big. I'll tell you another one that you mentioned that that you've already talked to in this series is Alan Chadwick. I got a chance to play against him in high school, and then I got a chance to coach against him my last year at Sandy Creek. So that was big. And then you got guys, Franklin Stevens. We've played at. He was at Tucker at the time. Since I've been here, he was at McEachern. We've had games against each other. Just some names that obviously mean a lot to guys that I've enjoyed going against. Devo, down at Griffin. Eric Parker over at Burke County. I only played once, but I have a lot of respect for Coach. And so there's a lot of those type guys. The state of Georgia has a bunch of really good football coaches, and it's every Friday night is something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy going out there every Friday night and getting to compete against other schools and other people, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, as somebody who grew up you've literally spent the majority of your life in Georgia high school
53
football.
years.
Doing high school football. What are some things that have changed over the years, good, bad, or indifferent, that you see that you could live without, or that you like or you don't like, or that you're like, well, this is what it's turned into? And we talked a little bit off air about technology being a big, huge game changer, but what are some other things as far as where the game is now compared to where it was when you first started coaching?
Well, probably the biggest change in what's going on that I wish we could somehow work back in a little bit is, we used to have a lot longer to prepare at the beginning of the year. We used to get to have an actual football camp. You got to do a lot of things differently. You had helmet practice, then you had shell practice, then you had full pad practices, and you kind of work through a process to be able to get into that and prepare a football team over the course of 3 or 4 weeks. Today, a couple of years ago, we put pads on Monday and scrimmaged on Friday night, and I think that it has taken away from the game and the preparation and the camaraderie of we all used to complain about having to go to football camp, but we all loved it. I don't know how most people did it, but under my dad and then under me, we always slept at the school. We did it with Coach Pitts. The whole team would go sleep at the school. We'd spread mattresses around the gym, around the cafeteria, whatever the case may be. And then you would practice and you'd eat and you'd live together for, a week basically. And so that was something that I missed that part of it, because on the flip side of it, it has made the summer so much. You have to install and prepare so much during the summer now that you've changed the dynamic of summer. And that's we used to just get together and lift weights and maybe throw a little bit or whatever, but you didn't really start practicing until August. And now, as soon as school's out, we're having to practice football all the way through the summer, and I think that might take away a little bit of a kid's youth. I know that kind of might sound crazy, but they're still kids. They're still in high school. They need to They need to enjoy being high school kids. So that's probably one. I mean, I'm obviously, like a lot of folks, I mean, I understand why kids move from school to school. Heck, I'm not going to sit here and say we didn't have kids that transferred into Sandy Creek when I was there. But I do think that now there's a little more, I don't know, there's just a little more maybe of the contacting of kids. I mean, if a parent decides they want to move to Buford because Jess Simpson has won 5 state championships and placed a ton of kids in college, and it's a great education, I don't have an issue with that. I probably have a little more issue of somebody contacting a kid and trying to get one off somebody's team. That happens maybe a little bit more today. And then, I guess technology has changed everything about what goes on, from being able to watch video on the sideline. I do think that has taken some of the coaching out of the game. I can remember, and this is really kind of old school, but I can remember standing there with my dad on the sideline, and if the ball hit in B gap, he could probably tell you 9 times out of 10 what happened and why that ball hit, and the team made a run of 10 or 12 yards because he knew that how the defense was supposed to work and who was supposed to be where and what took place. I think some of that has been taken out of the game because now everybody can't wait to get back over to the video monitor to see what happens. And so I think it may have took some of the in-game strategy or some of the in-game coaching of having to pay attention to what goes on. I remind our young coaches all the time of, you have to pay attention to the game. You can't just wait to get the replay on an iPad or a video screen. That's one of the things that I hope that our guys have taken from what I want them to be able to do and develop them as coaches is, if you can watch what goes on that play, you don't have to wait a whole series to attack it. You can attack it on the next play or 2 plays later. And I think some of that might be lost a little bit in how things go nowadays as well.
Well, what hasn't been lost is your ability to win football games over the years. And 20 years as a head coach, you're averaging about between 8 and 9 wins a season. And if you keep coaching as long as you say you're going to coach, you're going to pass the old man in wins.
I don't know about that, but
you'll get close.
I tell you, I enjoy, my wife will tell you this. I don't ever feel like I come to work. I enjoy what I do every single day. I get to come out here to Newnan High School and hang around with a bunch of really good football coaches. And I get to be around a bunch of really good young men that I hope football and our program helps them become better people and better husbands and better fathers one day and better football players. And it's something that they enjoy. And I certainly look forward to it every single day.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you being on with us. I appreciate you pouring into these young people and continuing to give back, everything that you were given as a young coach's kid and getting to be a gym rat and growing up as a player and just turning around and giving it back to those kids as well. And I hope you get to do it as long as you want to, Doctor.
I appreciate that. I'm expecting my first grandchild within the next due date's Thursday. I don't know if he'll be here on Thursday, but I'm expecting my first grandchild, so I can't wait to watch him run around here and be that little gym rat that I used to be. That I like to have our coaches bring all their kids up here because it just reminds me of my youth, and I think that's a special thing for a coach's kid and something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
That's awesome, Coach. Thanks so much.
I appreciate you.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.